Welcome everybody to the first of 3 videos before the Mon Challenge on Saturday in a Post-Uro Valki and Tibalt's Trickery meta, where I try and select a deck to take through what is probably going to be the biggest challenge of the year, as people flock to a new Mon format where anything goes, the meta is completely unsolved and your favourite deck is viable again. Now, speaking of favourite decks, we have here an archetype that is near and dear to my heart, which is the Stoneblade decks and archetypes. Specifically today, Mardu. What appealed to me specifically when I saw this list off the Stoneforge Mystic Discord, which I'll be linking down below in the description, is the combination of discard effects with lots of tokens to go wide, Ember Cleaves, and the ability to tutor it up. It's typical Stoneblade, but with a focus on that disruptive mid-range package, as opposed to maybe the creature-based disruption you'd get from the Bant decks with Skyclave Apparition and Spell Queller, the blue-white where you get Restoration Angel, Spreading Seas and Counter Magic, or even the Abzan list, which are very much Assassin's Trophy Decay. This sort of sits somewhere in between, where it's faster than the Abzan variant, but it's got more of a grind to it than the blue-white version. So the equipment that we're choosing to utilise today are Shadow Spear, Embercleave and Batterskull in the main. Burn is going to be huge for the first couple of weeks, and Blue-Red Prowess, any of the aggressive decks. So having that main deck life gain is going to be key. I also kind of trying to hedge against Heliod with the Indestructible and Hexproof could be relevant, but mainly it's going to be the Lifelink and Trample from Shadow Spear and just the big beater from Batterskull. Embercleave is an interesting one. Usually you'd see maybe sort of Feast and Famine or Fire and Ice in the main, but Embercleave serves a unique purpose in this deck because we have Lingering Souls and Spyro. So that's a total of 7 token producers. Well, I suppose 10 if you count the flashback on Lingering Souls. What that enables us to do is to go wide, attach an Embercleave to, I don't know, Croxer, Spyro, to get in for some serious, and to get in some very quick, serious damage. It just goes over the top of a lot of decks. A typical disruption package, you've got Dreadbore, Fatal Push, Lightning Bolts, Bone Crusher Giants. All of these effective at just clearing the way in the early game and just making use of our quick kill potential, particularly in comparison to a lot of the Stoneblade decks. The outlier that maybe looks a bit odd in this is Smiting Helix, and there's another one on the side. The purpose of that is to, in conjunction with Lingering Souls as well, get value from the playset of Seasoned Pyromancer, which means we've got in the main deck a grand total of 7 cards that we're actually quite happy to discard and maybe turn the discard 2 into more sort of like a positive and get some value out of that. So at its core, being more mid-range orientated shell, eking out little bits of value in the same way that Death Shadow does, and the same way that Jund and Rock do, is the key to finding success with this deck. Moving on to the sideboard. It's hard to sort of evaluate an unknown meta, so to try to hedge against the usual things. So in the Burn matchups, you've got the Helixes, 1 Lightning Helix, 1 Smiting Helix, as well as Kaya's Guile, the 4 modes on Kaya's Guile relevant for against a lot of decks. You've got against Death Shadow, the ability to sacrifice a creature, or the big sort of like all-in creatures. Boggles, I'd imagine it's a complete blowout against, just because it does get around Leyline of Sanctity with each opponent sacrifices a creature as opposed to target. The other one is its incidental graveyard hit as well, exiling graveyard, creating a 1/1 which just chump blocking against burn whilst you gain 4 life is always good. Accompanying that, it just fills. We had to dedicate 1 slot to the sword helixes here. So we wanted a modal spell that fills the role of, for example, the 3rd Remorseful Cleric, but also the 3rd Helix, and just an extra removal spell. I think it's a very underrated card, and in a hopefully slower meta, I feel like it could do some work. Magus of the Moon, just cheese out a couple of wins against the remnants of the Uro piles in the form of 5-colour Niv, which is still trying to utilise Valki with Bring to Light, can make use there. Feed the Swarm, this is mainly for Leyline and Sanctity. It's the only way we've got to deal with it easily. That also hits a creature, because again we're trying to utilise as many cards that have multiple purposes as possible. For example, Remorseful Cleric of Rest in Peace, just because it still gets in, it wears a sword, or Batterskull, Embercleave, whatever, very well. Fly in for some damage. Angras Rampage, just some Planeswalker hate, and the same thing. It's also Artifact and Creature hate, I guess. But all of the spells here serve a dual purpose, apart from Deafening Silence, because I'm still terrified of Storm. So with that all said and done, let's jump into a league. Welcome back everybody, we're in game 1 here against Elido the Bravo. We're on the draw with hard to evaluate hand. Lots of removal, threat, 3 lands. On the play, we say good luck, have fun to our opponent, and probably going to keep this. Worst comes to worst, we can always cycle, but I like this hand in the blind. Less so against Burn, but a slow Burn hand if they're going Rift Bolt first. So I can go with a Bloodstained Mire, fetch a Swamp or Lightning Bolt if we need it to kill a Goblin Guide, but sort of wishing this Smiting Helix was a Lightning Helix, which might be something that we have to evaluate later on, whether we bring those in. What? Well, most unusual to see this progression going. Turn 2, no plays, no direct spells. No direct spells to the face from Burn, so keep it simple, go for Blood Crypt. And we'll look to play the Triome next and hold up Fatal Push or Lightning Bolt. The mountain off the top is quite good, so that gives us the ability to hardcast Smiting Helix if we need to. And an opponent with an end step Boros Charm take us down to 12. 4 cards in hand. Okay, looks like a Lightning Helix or Charm off the top. Okay. Looks like our opponent has kept the all spell hand. So in the interest of efficiency, I'm going to bolt them on end step. Draw another land. It's not really what we want to see. I'm going to play out the Bone Crusher Giant now. It blocked, we need a clock. If they've got 2 burn spells in hand, we're just dead. But that's the way it goes sometimes against Burn. We had no discard. It's a suspect keep really, but in the blind I think it was a fairly defensible one. Okay. There's the old turn 4 kill. Sometimes they just have it, but we do have a lot for this matchup. So let's bring all of these in. Things that are bad. Not interested in Embercleave. Not interested in Dreadbore. I like to keep some configuration of Fatal Pushes and Bolts, particularly for taking out the Dreadbore. Then I'll shave 1 Fatal Push and 1 Thoughtseize. Thoughtseize is always an interesting one to evaluate in the Burn matchups, because as long as you're taking a Lightning Bolt or better, then it is saving you. It's essentially saving you 1 spell, but it's giving your opponent a free 2 damage to your face, but at the cost of a card. Though it's always an interesting one. All in all, so progression with Stoneforge. They don't really know that we are. Well, they could guess that we're Stoneblade, but all they saw was Bolt and Bone Crusher Giant with the Mardu colours. So depending on what we've got in our opening hand, I'd like to try and prioritise Shadow Spear, but we shall see. Take the play. Okay, so this hand allows us to get down a quick Shadow Spear or a quick Batterskull. Turn 3 Batterskull. think we can do better. Weirdly, I think this is the better hand that we were looking for. Got 2 Stoms. I'm going to pitch a Bone Crusher Giant. Play out the Blight Step pathway, and here we can talk about we're going to do what I talked about in between, and we're going to Thoughtseize, taking what's going to be their most efficient source of damage. Got 2 lands in hand. We can Rift Bolt or Lava Spike, but here it's the Swift Spear. It's the most repeatable source of damage. We have got a removal spell for it, but it's still going to get 1 damage in. Though, that being said, so we're taking 2, take 1 off the Thoughtseize, so we'll go to 17. Next turn we go to 16 to stomp it. Whilst they're tapped out. I think with that in mind, I'm going to take the Boros Charm. See, our opponent goes, we've got Inspiring Vantage into the Swift Spear that we know about. Okay, so we're going to 17, 16 with the fetch, unless we draw a basic. Which we do, unfortunately, it's not one we can utilise. So we'll keep it simple, and we'll just stomp now to play around any instant speed that they've drawn. Game down on the play. I don't think it's worth. I don't think it's worth taking any unnecessary risks. Now I'm expecting to see either double suspend. Yep. So we play out the Bone Crusher Giant, trying to preserve our life total as much as possible and present as best clock we can. Take 2 damage now to bolt it if they so please, but I don't see any reason why they would. Okay, Searing Blaze, very good card against us. And there's the spike we know about. Helix off the top would be fantastic. Well, it's a Helix. 1 unknown in hand. We go to 5. Go to 2 shock in the Blood Crypt, then go up to 5. 1 unknown in hand. I have to have a Boros Charm or 2 bolt effects. I'm going to hedge my bets and play the Blood Crypt tapped. And play out another Bone Crusher Giant to minimise the impact of a creature. Hopefully we don't get punished for this, but it's Burn. They do play a critical mass of interactive spells. There we go. There's the Eidolon. Not as bad as it could be, but pretty bad. So the Smiting Helix on the Eidolon puts us down to 2 and up to 5 again. Does allow us then to flashback Helix next turn as well as Lingering Souls, which I think is worth it. So we're going to offer the trade with the Bone Crusher, which I very much doubt they'll take. Helix Eidolon. Oh, so I was thinking this was Lightning Helix. No, this is Smiting Helix, forcing him, so we go to 7. That changes the mass completely, and someone in the comments screaming at me, probably Mirabito, my inability to do maths. We'll fetch the Triome here. Draw a white source, then we can do both, but going up to 9 right now would be fantastic. Gonna go with a new plan now. Go with Stoneforge Mystic, fetching the Shadow Spear, equipping that. We'll play and equip that to the Bone Crusher Giant. So at worst this eats a removal spell, but it's not going to our face. At best this is going to be 5 damage. Excellent. They take 2 down to 11. We continue to have Shadow Spear in play with Stoneforge. Okay. Still got the Helix. So in the interest of make sure that we minimise our losses. Go to 6 now. Pass the turn and go make 4 1/1 Lingering Soul tokens next turn. Hard cast there. Now any burn spell off the top and we are dead, but let's see what the opponent's got. Skull crack. Okay. Sometimes they just have it. And see you in game 2. Welcome back. We are in match 2 against R. Razanski. You tell him good luck, have fun, and evaluate a very awkward opening hand. Double red of the Pyromancer, but with 3 black sources. Sorry, 3 black spells, 1 red spell. Way to get Blood Crypt. Take a lot of damage in the process. I'm going to keep this in the blind. I think it's certainly there is an argument to be made for Snow-Covered Island, and Battle off the top without Stoneforge isn't fantastic. So I do like to lead on Inquisition in the blind. Opt-in response, so we're looking at blue-white control, we're looking at storm, we are looking at Stoneblade, specifically blue-white. So we have a push for, and a bolt for one of them. Snapcaster Bindback Opt is some good value, but it's not anything to worry about. Queller isn't particularly relevant at this stage. I'm going to take one of the Stoneforges. I'll take the one with the correct art first. So unless we draw a different source, we won't be able to bolt, push and Thoughtseize. So the Vista and Stoneforge we know about. The promo art. They have gotten Baskel. Draw a Stoneforge of our own, which I think is going to have to wait until next turn. Your option is could Thoughtseize the Baskel now. Gets out of Queller. No, they have a land in hand, which could take our Stoneforge, but if we draw a land ourselves, we'll be able to bolt it. I think I'm going to take the highest upside play. Wrong format, but I'll play around days anyway. Yeah, we'll take the Batterskull now. Be wary of the Mana Leak in hand, but we've got enough to fight through that quite comfortably. Yeah, in a blue-white version of the deck, I'm not sure how many ways they've got to recur Batterskull. Probably none in the main deck. And then looks like they're going to hold up Mana Leak and Spell Queller. Okay. I think we're going to bait the Queller now with a Fatal Push. Very well disciplined from our opponent. So we're going to pass turn, hold up Bolt, fetch a Triome on end step. Okay, so they're just playing out the Snapcaster. Opponent showing some good discipline. Yeah, on the bottom, okay. I'm getting quite low, so I don't want to shock in to bolt a Snapcaster Mage. Okay, that was an excellent draw. That would allow us to Pyro and Bolt if we wanted to. Torn between the idea of baiting the Stoneforged and hope they play the Spell Queller out. We can dump 3 cards out of our hand next turn with Spyro. If we draw a land, we could Bat Skull. I think we want to keep the land in hand. Make them think they can get future mana leak value. And we'll bait with the Stoneforge. If it resolves, we'll go get probably a Shadow Spear. But I imagine we won't be able to resist Spell Quellering this. Again, very well disciplined from our opponent. Double black, double red, so I'll go with, we have more of in hand, play the red source. Maybe our opponent has drawn another piece of 2 mana interaction that they want to hold up. Or they wanted to hold up in case we had a second spell. There's certainly a case for leading Pyro into that. So instead I'm going to bolt the Snapcaster so we get that Spell Queller out of the hand, which they still hold on to. If we had a fetch land, then we could use the push on a Queller. As it stands, I'm going to run it out into it. Try and get some more tokens, go a bit wide. If it resolves, if not, got a Cryptic Command. So they are the more controlling version of Stoneblade, as opposed to the versions that I like to play, which are more tempo, low to the ground, relying on your Shark Typhoons, Stoneforge Mystics, Spreading Seas kind of style. Okay. So no 5th mana source for the Bat Skull nor for the Pyromancer tokens, which is a shame. But we've got double push up. Opponent 4 cards in hand. Pyromancer, that was a good draw. Let's just pitch both these pushes and keep the Bat Skull in hand if it resolves. Here's the Spell Queller. I haven't got a way to remove it yet. Oh, interesting. So that means they're probably playing on thin ice if they're using the new tap lands that are also sort of like snow lands and fetchable. We're not convinced about this new border that they've applied to the text boxes. They're blinking their own spell queller so that we don't get our Seasoned Pyromancer back. I think doing that before combat, getting any damage in, I think it's incredibly greedy. So we'll run Croxer out into it. Yep. So really we still need that 5th land. Oh, particularly now. Fetch land preferably. That will allow us to double push and definitively get rid of this queller. As it stands now, we're dead next turn to it. Colonnade as well, that's okay. Have to get a swamp here. Kill the queller, don't get back Crocs, unfortunately. Say no. And if they boot up the colonnade, we are dead. See if the opponent sees it. Yep, that's good a game too. Okay, so definitely want the Colligan's command. Angress Rampage, hits Teferi, gets rid of any artifacts they have, it's perfect in the mirror. Helix, some cheap interaction, hits Planeswalkers. They're probably on thin ice, as the opponent showed they were very willing to go for basics above anything else first. So I'm not sure Magus is that great in this one. Kaya's Guile, it's a pretty good cheap interaction, it's probably better than Dreadbore. Not convinced about things that don't hit Planeswalkers or go face. So with that, Helix, Embercleave, Fatal Push seem like the first things that come to mind. I like the bolts, do very much like the discard effects, particularly against the Cryptic Snapcaster deck. Be able just to pick and choose their resources. Kaya's Guile. Gonna run it back like this. No discard, but a lot of ways to fight through hate. Complete redundancy. Now it's a grindy hand for a grindy matchup. We get to fetch the Triome on turn 1. Yeah, quite like this hand. Opponent keeps 7 as well. Okay, long pause from our opponent there. Flood Strand go. Triome, then into probably be a Blood Crypt. Unless we draw a basic, and we'll be playing that. So we have Blood Crypt, Fetch Shock down to 16. Play out the first Stoneforge. Okay, opponent's not playing Spell Snare, it's always nice. Here, don't have access to Fire and Ice. I think Bascul's the definitive pick here. Highest upside. going to F6 to get some value out of that. The opponent opts. That was a very quick bottom, so either flooded, maybe looking for lands, or specifically a removal spell for Stoneforge. Don't expect them to be playing paths if they... Yeah, there we go, there's the on thin ice we mentioned earlier. Perfect, so we're going to play the Sunbait Canyon, hold up a bolt for a Queller if they have it next turn. I'm going to play out another Stoneforge Mystic, getting Shadow Spear this time I think. Want to hold up bolt, or we'll just play out the spear whilst we can before they get a chance to Queller or Mana Leak it. Bottom again from the opponent. Shocking in a Hollowed Fount, expect to see Teferi here, yep. So now we can rinse repeat, we can, if we draw a land, then incentivise to maybe start trying to fill the graveyard for Croxer, but we're going to be bolting this Teferi. So we can bolt Teferi, Pyromancer, pitching Croxer, Pyromancer, which I quite like, so I'm going to do that first to see what we draw. We'll fetch first so we can get double black, double red, so if we get a swamp here, Pyromancer, Croxer, and there we go. Hopefully no force negation from our opponent. Okay, Teferi's off the board. Okay, Stoneforge Mystic from our opponent. Fetching Fire and Ice. Can Battle School now, which they know about. Can equip and then get Lingering Souls down, which blocks exceptionally well. I think for now I'm going to equip the Shadow Spear to an Elemental. Get in for 4. Then we're just going to start going wide. Typically the blue-white versions of the deck do struggle with a wide border tokens. This particular version, the more controlling, could be playing Supreme Verdict. The other option is to Stoneforge into Thoughtseize. I do quite like as a bait. See if they've got the Mana Leak, which it looks like they do. There we go, fantastic. So now we'll Thoughtseize, take the Fire and Ice or anything better if they've got a Wrath. Force negation, pitching Jace. Okay. So they get to play, if they've got a land, equip the Fire and Ice. Colonnade, wrong land. So they're putting down a Battle School they've drawn. No, just putting down the Fire and Ice. Then equipping. Okay. So 2 cards in hand, I'd have to have Force Negation and Blue Spell. But we've got plenty of ways to block that with the Lingering Souls, so we get in for 6. Just going to play full set of Lingering Souls with flashback. Which now blocks and trades very well with Stoneforge and Colonnade. Also means that next turn, if we've got any lands in hand, we could potentially flashback Croxer as well. But as it stands, 2 blockers, yep, they're dead on board. Perfect. It's more what we want to be doing this game. Still not a fan of Magus, but now we've seen they are definitively on thin ice. I'm tempted to bring in Feed the Swarm over an Angrass Rampage. Lines up well against, I'm not sure if they're playing Feast and Famine, they should have searched for it, but it's a lot of our removal and interactions black based, or our creatures are. What like bringing in 1 on thin ice? Okay, so let's go back on the resource depletion plan and into game 3 against our opponent. Time's looking quite healthy for both of us, I'm not concerned about that. It's a very suspicious hand. 5 lands, 2 spells, opponent keeps 7 on the draw, I think we can do better. This is better. No fetch land to get. And no white source without pain, so tempted to ditch the silent clearing, keep double red, double black. Yeah, we'll go with that. Thoughtseize off the top be excellent as always, but Stoneforge holding up Dreadbore if they've got us turn 2 Stoneforge, that'd be excellent. Oh, asking you shall receive, so we want to put that on black anyway. Force negation is, but that's still a free him to Torak. Wow, their hand not great. So we take the Queller. Leaves us free to Stoneforge at our leisure. It's another tap land from the opponent. I think getting down the Mystic whilst we've got an opportunity is still the most important thing. So let's go get a Batterskull whilst we haven't got any removal that we know about. Next turn we'll be able to Batterskull and Thoughtseize or Thoughtseize Helix. So there's the island that we know about. Excellent, so I'm going to shock it in Thoughtseize first, just to play around removal spell. We've got Spell Snare, Jace and Shark Typhoon. Could play around the Shark Typhoon, Jace. I think we've got to take the Jace, that bounces the Batterskull token. Shark Typhoon I'm not too worried about. I've got Helix and Dreadbore and Bolt, which we can use to either fight through or play as. I think, yeah, the obvious take here is Jace. So obviously no attack. There's the Shark Typhoon that we know about. We're going to make sure that Batterskull and End-Step to play around on thin ice, which they are representing here. Okay, they have their own Stoneforge. Feast and Famine. Perfect. So there's one unknown. We're just going to take this. Fortunately, we have to take yet more damage to do this, but yep. So they're going to take the 4. We're going to go back up to 15. We're going to wait till. Yeah, we're going to wait till they. I've got a land in hand. There's not really much we can do about the spell snare is going to get. So whatever they try to equip the Feast and Famine to is what we're going to bolt. That's 7, 8. 4 mana efficiency. I'm going to helix. No, I can't helix them now. No, that makes life even easier. So they can fire up the colony now if they wish to. But it's not a race that they can win doing that. Future, we're going to helix now. They spell snare. No, F6. I'm going to fetch a plains here. No, sorry, I'm going to fetch a Sacred Foundry. To replace the Sunbit Canyon we're going to crack. And I'm going Inquisition. Other nice isn't instant speed, so they can't do anything about that. Spell Snare is the the Spell Snare is the floor. Cryptic Bouncing, okay. And countering target spell. Okay, so we're going to get in for 1. That was a good play by the opponent, delayed us a turn. Means they want to keep what they've got in hand, which I'm assuming is the spell snare, so they're not loading up the colonnade. Perfect. Now we do the Stoneforge Battle School trick where we activate Stoneforge, bounce Battle School back to hand. That for Cryptic Command, I assume. That was going to be bounce draw. Interesting. Yeah, double white here. So we're going to hold control, activate Stoneforge Mystic, then with that on the stack we're going to bounce the Batterskull. That way if they remove the Stoneforge in response to us bouncing the Batterskull, there we go. So they did this to stop us bouncing our Batterskull in response, or potentially doing something else to fizzle the Cryptic. Okay, just suiting up Colonnade, so they're going to be equipping that. Opponent's going to be attacking with Colonnade, holding up Spell Snare for this Dreadball. Okay. Perfect, so try and get that out of their hand. They do have Cryptic. Well, I have to make them use it. I think this is game to the opponent here. Pulls to 1. Next turn they... So on end step they tap us down, draw a card. If we Dreadball, they counter tap and attack for 8. Yeah, I think that's the best. I haven't really got a plan, unfortunately. Playing like they knew about the Dreadball the entire game. I expect tap draw from the opponent. No. Okay. And very cautiously as well. Yeah, the opponent, Master of Composure, just taking the... We want to lose the Dreadball. We know they've got the Cryptic, bounce it, we can't replay the Batterskull. I think we've got to take this. So we discard Dreadball. Don't even activate Field when they get the untap. So are they going for the Germ token, I assume? Yeah. That is probably the game there, but could have bounced it in response, then they Cryptic to bounce the Stoneforge Mystic, which is probably what they're doing now. Yeah, that's definitely game. Gonna concede. Not a good start to the league. So I'll say goodbye now. I'll see you for match number 3. Welcome back for match 3. We're against Krabby Rock. We're going to take the play. Good luck, have fun to our opponent. And mulligan definitively a no-lander. Somehow better, but not by much. We're going to go to 5 as the opponent keeps 7. Wow. Keep this. We're going to bin Marsh Flats and play 23 lands. I'm going to get rid of the Helix as well. I'm going to fetch Blood Crypt. 15. We'll be conservative and fetch a Swamp. Keep the life total a little bit high in case we are against Burn or another aggressive deck. Against good old-fashioned Rock. Okay. A long time since I've seen Thrun. We've got to take Liliana here. The pushes aren't too great at the moment against the current hand. Very bad against Lingering Souls. Pulse, however, is very good. But Liliana's the biggest threat here. They'll be upticking definitively, get her out of bolt range. It slows them down, means their first relevant play is on 4, so we'll take Lily and say go. Perhaps probably going to Catacombs. Yep, saying go, holding up push. Should have kept that Helix. Overgrown Tomb for our opponent, followed by a Swamp that we didn't know about. I'm going to fetch a Triome here. Blaze into the Ghost Quarter. Don't want to. Got red and black here. Get white. Yeah, let's force them to use their mana a little bit. Particularly now we've drawn Marsh Flats. Sorry, we've drawn the Godless Shrine, which we're probably going to be getting off the Marsh Flats anyway. That was Sacred Foundry. Now it makes that decision a lot easier. It slows our opponent down from that Thrun even more. If they choose to Ghost Quarter us, which I think would be quite a tempting target. The Assassin's Trophy. It's quite aggressive, but I can respect it. Get a... We've got black regardless of what we do. Red, we'll get a mountain. Looks like the opponent's doing that to potentially set up to make sure they've got that Thrun. If our opponent wants to thin our deck a little bit more, see. We'll go with the Sacred Foundry. We've got the Godless Shrine, that's probably the best bait. Our Dreadball lines up very nicely against the Thrun, so play the Godless Shrine tapped, but we want to make sure they're hitting the Foundry. So, put this on red. Don't need double white for any reason. I'll just do this. So get a white source now. Not sure rock going on the land destruction plan's best, but might not have a land in hand. Didn't have the second green source. Makes a lot of sense now. Yep, so they're going to take the dread ball. Yep, as expected. Turn of auto yields now. If the Inquisition or Thoughtseize again, then we'll bolt in response, but the Godless Shrine they know about. It's a very real possibility we just lose to Thrun here. We do have the Feast and Famine inside, which is pretty good against them. Let's go bolt now, F6. Wow. Been a phenomenal run of lands on a Mortar 5. Apart from that Thoughtseize, I haven't seen a single spell in 5 draw steps. Don't fall to yield until end, we'll fetch. I think we've got a fetchable land still left. Yeah, we've got definitely got 2 Blood Crypts. Scavenging Ooze. Very, very good card in the Rock Shell. No targets here at the moment. Happy to see that over a Tarmogoyf for sure. But it still represents a 2-turn clock. Probably shouldn't have wasted that bolt. So this will be 2, 4, 8. This doesn't change the clock. We'll take that Maelstrom Pulse. Show our opponent that our hand has been awful and our sequences of draws have been awful. This now makes Croxa particularly bad, the Scavenging Ooze. I mean, neither of our draws have been particularly good, but that's, well, we can Helix the Scavenging Ooze at least. Keeps us out of range. That means Croxa's more of a Croxa's a better draw now. Can we Croxa and Helix next turn? Blah blah red. We can, but I'm going to play around another Scavenging Ooze because it is a sorcery. Okay. Also adds another turn on their clock. Gives us a chance to draw a Batterskull. Stoneforge Mystic, Croxa, Season Pyromancer. Hell of a lot of good draws, but certainly not seeing them at the moment. I'm going to predict a Swamp off the top. And again, that's why we played the Helix out of the graveyard. So again, we'll kill the Scavenging Ooze, play out the Bone Crusher, which doesn't trade unfortunately because the Regenerate on Thrun. they have a fetch land. Although, yep. What this does do, however, is I realise that that would have been a huge punt, is that it would have turned on Revolt for their payload pushes in hand. So now we can survive for one more turn. I hope to draw into something relevant, unless they draw a fetch, or Assassin's Trophy, Abrupt Decay, Maelstrom Pulse, Liliana. Ah, Bloodjuice Thirst. That will do it. I think we got very lucky to last this long. So, they are removal deck definitively. Feast and Famine is an all-star. Do quite like the Kaya's Guile, particularly against Thrun. Same with Angrass Rampage. Takes Liliana out of the game. Helix for more spot removal. I mean, the things here, Lingering Souls. Just get rid of that, get that Maelstrom Pulse off the board. Luckily, they didn't see Lingering Souls in game 1. So, it's the things I'm looking at bringing in. Take out Helix. Shadow Spear could be a bit of a mirror breaker with the Trample. I'm not. Embercleave's good, but I don't want 4 pieces of equipment in the main. Take out Embercleave for the Feast and Famine. They themselves are a discard deck. Just want to go up as much removal as humanly possible. So I'm going to take out one Thoughtseize. I think we need that Helix actually. I do like the Kaya's Guile. Nuking their graveyard for any Goyfs. Making some chump blockers, sacrificing Thrun. I'll bring in one. Bring in one, keep the Rampage. For Liliana, Dreadbore. 7, 8, 9. Then 11, 12, 13, 14 pieces of removal for quite, it's probably playing 18, 19 creatures. This is exactly what we wanted. We go Inquisition, without taking any damage, then we can shock into Pyromancer if we need to. Yeah, love it. So let's see what the opponent's got going on. This is very much a rock hand. They correctly identified that we were on Stoneblade. So we can Stoneforge Mystic down. Next turn, then get the Bat Skull, Liliana, play around. Then we've got to take the Maelstrom Pulse again. You stops the equip of the Feast and Famine, but we'll be getting Bat Skull to fight through. Got the Pyromancer to draw more, yeah. Talk myself into that one, okay. Getting probably a Sacred Foundry off the Mystic. Sorry, for the Mystic rather. Yeah, so Bloodstain Mire, Sacred Foundry, Stoneforge Mystic, getting Bat Skull. Opponent taking game actions. As they can. Sacred Foundry. Get the Stoneforge. Fetch up Batterskull. Say go. And probably going to put down a Collector Roof. Isn't an issue for us. The Goyf is currently a 1-2. Yep, it's currently a 2-3. Doing much that we didn't know about. Playing a Goyf, okay. It's bold. Can respect it. That being in mind, bust him, I can get the Triome. Got the Ghost Quarter. That's fine. Swamp, is that the same art? It is. No. I have to read this one. So whenever a opponent put into the graveyard from the battlefield, put a 1-1 counter on it at the beginning of your upkeep. If Sorrowf has one or more 1-1 counters on it, you may remove all of them. If you do, exile each other non-land permanent with converted mana cost less than or equal to the number of counters removed this way. Interesting, that seems an exceptionally good card in this matchup. Okay. What we can do is we can equip a Batterskull with a Sword of Feast and Famine next turn, which I am very keen to do. I should have fetched in response, I've just realised that. Yeah, that triggers Sarulf. Just giving it a counter unnecessarily. So we'll play the red source. Equip the Sword of Feast and Famine. Hit for 7. That will allow us to untap, play Seasoned Pyromancer, get a 1-1 token, draw 2 cards, as well as hold up 4 Mardu colours off the Triome. Sorry, it was 6. I don't know where my maths are today. Thinking it takes 7 damage in total. Or at least I'll claim that anyway. So they have to discard. to apologise, I left myself on mute. I've been talking away for several minutes about Sarulf, basically just beginning it. But here we are. Hopefully no push, but we're attacking off the trade with the germ token. Very much doubt they'll take it. Even a chump with collect roof wouldn't be bad. Okay. Just saying that it's shown now that the Sarulf, well, in what was it, on turn 2 or turn 3 when they played the Sarulf and we didn't fetch in response, that gave them the extra counter to wipe the sword and the Seasoned Pyromancer last, when they cleared our board. So that was a mistake. And that's not knowing the card or seeing it really for the first time in play. It's one of those cards that now I think does reach its peak performance in an Uroless meta. You see a lot of cards like this that are just completely suppressed by the Uro decks and just the pure value, positive gameplay loops that they had. Okay, if they chump an elemental here, then we can kill them with a stomp, so let's go for that. No push on the elemental. Nope. Okay. Trigger on the star. We're just going to push him now. Push it now. Sorry, push it now. Stomp it now. Hopefully, no instant speed life gain from the rock opponent. Oof. Wow, we got very lucky in that one. I think in a grindy game, Embercleave would have been fantastic there, but would have won us the game a lot earlier. But they do have a little bit more removal. Yeah, they have a little bit less removal than I thought they were going to have. I assumed they'd be playing the playset of Fatal Push, playset combination of Abrupt Decay, Assassin's Trophy, and Maelstrom Pulse. Whether they just like us didn't see it, but we shall see. I do kind of want more things to go face now. I think on the draw, I think I'm going to keep the same configuration. There's certainly an argument for swapping out your Lingering Souls for a Helix, but it's so good against their deck, short of Maelstrom Pulse. I'm going to keep it in. Again, I'm not sure how to sideboard in that regard, but Embercleave probably could make another consideration for it. As far as hands go, this deals with a lot of their early threats, deals with Goyf, Ooze, Sarulf, got proactive plays, all our colours. Yeah, I don't think we can mulligan this. Inquisition from our opponent, or Thoughtseize? Inquisition. So I think they've got to take the Stoneforge here. It's our only proactive play. The other rest are reactive. I could see them taking the Sword of Feast and Famine as well. Nah, that's makes a lot of sense. Spyro off the top, that's good. Arid Mesa will play that with a view to getting the Triome. Long pause from our opponent. Thoughtseize. Okay. That'll be taking our Spyro. Or the sword. Again, I can see considerations for both. I'd probably take the sword, unless they've got a trophy or Abrupt Decay, Maelstrom Pulse in hand. Yeah. Hex Drinker. Okay, with that in mind, I'm going to fetch and Blood Crypt, probably. Bolt kills less things in their deck than Push, so I'm going to kill her now. I'm assuming they've got quite a... maybe they've got a couple of Goyfs in hand or something like that. They're trying to burn through our removal, which is why they took a threat and, well, was essentially our best win con against them, short of Lingering Souls. Okay, we've got a Liliana with the uptick. I'm going to pitch one of these 3 drops. I think it's probably going to be Kaya's Guile. Okay, again we're going to fetch the Triome on end step. There's always Liliana and empty board, very good. Dreadbore off the top, land would be good. Thoughtseize. That's worse draws. Hopefully this tags a Thrun. Damnation. Yep, happy to see that go. So they know our hand. They're empty-handed, so yep, land from them. We'll pitch a push. Hope to draw any land off the top gets Spyro. Just like that. Also gets the token, which is quite nice. Don't need double white, got double black, got double red. Don't want to go too low. I'm wary of Hex Drinker coming down, making it a 4-4. We're going to be discarding a push. We only have 1 left in the deck. Yeah. So with that in mind, I think I'm just going to get a red source. With Season Pyro. Yeah, 1-1. I can pressure Lily. Well, that allows us to start making our way towards 5 mana, which is the most important in this deck. It's Battle School range, Season Pyro, flashback. It's 3-2 damage for our opponent. I genuinely see them going down here. Yeah. So get rid of the elemental. Lily goes to 1 next turn. I mean, so what you want. The one of the best things about this ban is, and the new meta that we are going to be facing, is the fact that Liliana becomes good again. And even though we're not playing her in the deck, it's just good to see. It's a stalwart of the format, a staple, one of the best cards for years. I'm not sure about bringing Fulminator in against us. Really not sure about that. It's good here as a blocker, but it's not really why you play Fulminator Mage. It's not great. So we'll make the trade. It's very positive for us. Well, it's net positive for us. They block with Fulminator. We get to make some 2-2s. Lily gets an Inquisition, which does nothing. Fetch a... we'll get a swamp. Start pressuring Liliana again. That is a hell of a draw. Again, 10 minutes apiece on the clock for ourselves and our opponent. Nothing to worry about there. A Ghost Quarter coming a little bit too late for them. We get to kill Liliana with the elementals. Dome them for 4, we go up to 15. It's going to be all good. I mean, just get to do it all. Get to hold up the Dreadbore. Incentivises them to fire off a Thoughtseize if they want to, but we're not going to waste a Dreadbore on Liliana. Appreciate the opponent thinning for both of us there. Well, for me actually. Just both go Lily, face. Hold up Dreadbore. You can even kill a Thrun through, because I won't have the mana to regenerate. Kill a Sarulf. Land is not great for the opponent there. It's definitively good for us though. Look at that Shadow Spear off the top. There's no point giving double lifelink to the Germ token. No, Bolt lethal, Stomp lethal. Got a lot of different ways to kill our opponent here, even if they do have a second damnation, which they don't. Looks like that is match 3 wrapped up. Solid performance against a very hateful deck. Opponent gives us the GGs. And looks like we're on to match 4, which I'll see you for then. Okay, so we are back from match 4 against My Cage, and we can tell opponent good luck, have fun. He's chosen to keep 7. Got a very mediocre hand filled with 2 Stoneforge Mystics, Dreadbore, 2 removal spells, 3 lands. I mean, it's a keep, but it's one of the begrudging ones. Does allow us to go Triome into Stoneforge, take minimal damage, and we're against Storm, most likely. I'm still going to play out the Triome, even though we just drew it. Hoping that this is Prowess and not Storm. They just go Manamorphose into the... Okay, it is Prowess. It's very thankful for that. So with the drawing extra lands, I want to slow them down. So I'm going to play the Dreadbore here off the Blightstep pathway. Kill the Sprite Dragon before that starts to escalate. I hope they kept a threat light hand. Play the Stoneforge next turn, which will be getting the Batterskull or Shadow Spear, depending on what they do. Then hopefully allowing us to Lightning Helix, Smiting Helix the turn after. But it looks like they baited us with the Sprite Dragon into the Stormwing this turn. So do with the Bolt off the top, that'd be fantastic. Otherwise we'll Stoneforge, Batterskull, Smiting Helix next turn and go from there. Okay, so for a creature heavy hand for the opponent. Again, this means we get to... This is good. We get to take as little damage as physically possible. If we're getting towards this Batterskull, play a Bloodstained Mire. So go. Okay, we've got a Lava Dart that's going at Stoneforge. It's fine. No plans on playing it next turn. I'm playing the Batterskull next turn, that is. I don't have any mountains, interestingly enough, for these lava darts, so even though we're taking 8, it's not the worst. Go to 11, we'll be going up to 14 from the Helix. Again, very creature heavy hand from the opponent. Lines up quite nicely against what we've got going on. It's even better because next time we get to flashback Helix, kill a Soul Scar, stomp it, and then play a Stoneforge. So we'll get this off the table now. Hope there's no... Because they haven't got a mountain, they can't flashback save it with Lava Dart, they'd have to use a mutagenic growth, which they don't have. It's brilliant news for us again. So they're cycling, trying to find a mountain or a relevant spell to go face. Looks like they're wary of the Helix we've got in the graveyard as well. The good draws just keep coming. So we'll target that Soulscar Mage. If they cast a spell, we will stomp on top of it. Nope. It's not the most mana efficient play, but I'm going to kill the Soulscar Mage now. Or attempt to anyway. The opponent did have the bolts, they're willing to save the Soulscar Mage, the last Soulscar Mage and their creature. We've got Sprite Dragon, we can chump that nearly endlessly with the Lingering Souls tokens that we're about to get. So here we will Stoneforge to get the last... Oh, sorry, not to get the last equipment, to get an equipment out of our deck, which would be the Shadow Spear. We'll then play that, play Lingering Souls, and turn after we'll be able to Batter Skull, flashback Lingering Souls, play Bone Crusher Giant. Hopefully that'll be enough. We are precariously low though, because the Lava Darts in the graveyard, so one mountain would represent 1, 2, 3. Yeah, one mountain is a bolt effectively. So I know about these two in hand, it's an issue. More long pauses from the opponent. Shadow Spear, F6, and be an interesting sequence. I mean, it's not impossible. We lose from here. We've got Serum Visions. We'd have to find a way to remove both of these spirits. In order to be able to attack through with the Sprite Dragon. The blue-red version doesn't tend to play Crash Through. It's usually relying on the evasion of Sprite Dragon and Stormwing Entity is more than enough. Okay, we'll just go 1 and 2 here. Nothing fancy, we won't allow ourselves to get blown out by the Sprite Dragon. Yeah. And we still get to do everything without taking damage, so we'll flash back. Lingering Souls. We'll pop the Bone Crusher Giant into play, and then on the end step we'll put in a Batter Skull. Okay, we've got Manamorphose. Still not too scary with the Spirit tokens. Red from the opponent. Swift Spear. If they play their last card, I will flash in Battle School before going to blocks, just to nullify these two. They're already probably quite wary of attacking through. Okay. Okay, so they're not doing it now anyway. Also, they're not attacking with the Soul Scar and Northern Swiss Spears. There's no point doing it now. I'll just keep things simple, keep it conservative. Not allow ourselves to open up to any blowouts. Just keep things simple. This turn we get to. Okay. So I'm going to give the Bone Crusher lifelink and trample here. I'm going to draw a card first off a red source. That's pretty good. That's 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So if they don't block, then we can kill them here. Okay. So I'm going to stomp the Soulscar Mage, just because the Bolt can kill the entity, Soulscar Mage can't. Sorry, the Stomp can't, so they're going at there, so before that. Now we have to bolt the entity now, otherwise we won't be able to do it. So that bolts, that's that. So we go to 16, they lose the Soulscar Mage and the Stormwing entity, they go Hellbent. We've still got the Germ token, Stoneforge, the Bone Crusher come in next turn. We can give the Germ Trample with the Shadow Spear. That's quite a lot of damage coming through if they choose to attack, but they can only attack with the Sprite Dragon. This next turn we can still... Yep, come on. No attacks at all. Quite like to see that. So I'm just going to hold up Return and Return of the Bat Skull and flash it back in with the Stoneforge Mystery. We don't need to get too aggressive with this Sprite Dragon. Next turn we'll be able to equip the Bat Skull to the Bone Crusher and the Shadow Spear and hopefully attack through it. Okay, opponent's getting aggressive, so it would have to be... Okay, just wants the damage for the light up. Trying to find a way not to die next turn. I think they've seen the... That would have done it, to be fair. That would have done quite a lot of damage. That would have done... That would put us to... 9, 10, 11. Yeah, that'd have been lethal. Whew, taking game 1 against Prowess is huge. So, Helix is good. Oh, the Helix definitely so. Everything's silence, a bit cute, but I'm not a big fan. Embercleave's god awful in this matchup. They tend not to play any islands, but they do have Manamorphos. I think Magus is a little bit cute again. Kaya's Guile, it's pretty good. Push is a bit suspect, doesn't kill the Stormwing. Red Ball's brilliant. Bolt kills everything in their deck. I'm going to trim a couple of Thoughtseize effects. I'm just going to do this. Go a little bit bigger, but have more high impact cards. I'll go for a split. I'll go for a 3-2 split. The Command can be a bit of a blowout, but I've seen they're playing mutagenic growths and the lava darts. They're not going to always be struggling to find lands with the mountain subtype. Yeah, pretty happy to keep it there. Let's go very threat light, removal heavy. Like this. To go as painless as possible with the push, then the stomp. Still going to hold up push. I don't think there's any reason to. I don't think there's any reason to sort of like hold up a triome or anything like that. I think just keeping it simple. Tag a Sprite Dragon, like so. Get that off the table. Now, because we've drawn the Pyromancer, I will hold up the option to get either a mountain for the stomp or get the Triome to play the Pyromancer the turn after. So now I'll offer to take the 1 damage, just to bait them into. Yep. So I'm going to pitch Swamp and Sunbaked Canyon here. Very glad I did now. To get to Lingering Souls and Shadow Spear next turn. They've got the Stormwing, so I'm not too bothered about that. No, just digging for it. So the opponent kept again another threat light hand. Oh, they do have it. Okay. Either just found out the second one or just wanted to get as much information as humanly possible. Okay, so we're still going to get the planes, minimise damage. Get the Shadow Spear down. And set up nicely for next turn. We'll be able to flashback equip to the Pyromancer. Gain some life. Again, happy to jump here. Yeah, we're not trying to get aggressive, we're not trying to untap and kill them. Just trying to delay their clock as much as possible. So it looks like it's working, so go Marsh Flats, we want black, red. So we'll equip here. Gonna get a bolt or nope, it's gonna take the 3. Back up to 20. Because we've still got the Pyromancer around, I'm just gonna keep putting down Lingering Souls tokens. I'll get a Triomon instead, then Bone Crusher, Crocs the next turn. Start to really tax their resources while going wide, and then they're bored. So once again, I'm just going to chump the Stormwing, not to bother about the Swift Spear. It can definitely load up, but not too worried in that regard. So, I was trying to trigger light up the stage. I still think the Spirit tokens are more important to us than the light up the stages. Sorry, it's more important to them. They are playing Bedlam Reveler, but we can go over that with Crocs eventually. Can't get back Crocs this turn because of the planes, but we can still play Crocs. This does help the Bedlam Reveler, but I'd rather have Crocs returning than Bedlam Reveler be fueled a little bit better. Again, play out the Bone Crusher. We'll bluff the Revolted Push. Doesn't tag Bedlam Reveler or Stormwing, but still pretty good. Bedlam Reveler is currently a 2 and 1 generic at the moment. Yeah, that's it. So, I'm assuming they've done that just to fuel Bedlam Reveler next turn, but I'm very happy to take 3 again here. The Spyro definitely nullifies that attack. Bedlam Reveler gone, so play out the Bloodstained Mire. They can shrink if they want to with the Lava Dart in the graveyard. The Oceanic Growth. We still get the 3. We still get the 3. That's fine. And that's a Mutagenic Growth that's not been put onto a Stormwing. So I'm very happy there. So 1, 2, 1, 2. Or let's get rid of all the lands. Got no way to recur them. Ooh. Using a Wild Slash is massive. equip the Shadow Spear to the Croxer. Makes their attacks even worse. Two cards in hand. Bedlam Reveler's exiled. You sometimes play two, but the Lingering Souls here, just chumping the Spirit, the Stormwing Entity every single turn, has really won us this game. I know Shadow Spears kept us at 20 and just fogged these attacks, but real MVP is Lingering Souls, and if Fjord ever watches this, I'm not going to say it. Okay. The opponent has to respect the Croxer here. Yep, I'm still going to jump. Don't think with two cards and a Lava Dart in hand they can kill me, but we've still got two other copies of Lingering Souls in the deck. We've got a Croxer, which can be shrunk by the Soulscar Mage, but it can come back with the fetch land in hand. And another spell. No, it can come back next turn anyway. I mean, this is huge. Yeah, so we can completely entwine that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Put that tapped. Get the last card out of their hand. Okay, Crocs becomes a 3-3. I'm sorry, a 5-5. Then perfect. So we want to kill the Soulscar Mage definitively. We're going to get rid of everything. Create a 1-1 to jump the Stormwing, gain 4 life. They probably have to sacrifice Swift Spear. Croxer's going to kill the Soulscar Mage, and they lose their graveyard for any future Bedlam Revelers. That's what I was talking about, the high ceiling on this card. We fought through top 20 cards of their deck, and it's still not going to be enough. So that sequence of events. We lose Croxer and get it back next turn as a 6-6. We've got a Spirit, which probably will just be yep, there we go. Okay, it's not a bad draw. I'm not going to be chumping this time. We're going to be suiting it up with a Shadow Spear, which, oh no, never mind. So if they attack, they lose basically. Yep. We untap. Get in with the Spirit token. That is Croxer to bolt them off the top. Okay, so that's the end of that one. I'll see you for the final match of the league over the 3-2. Welcome back everybody for the final match of the league against Mr. Rab, well-known grinder. Tell him good luck, have fun. I'll keep a very clunky hand on the play. Lingering Souls, push. I'm going to keep it. Again, could be punished, but If this was a week ago, no way in hell I'd keep this. Definitely loses to Uro, Trickery, all that good stuff, but I think in a slightly slower format, as was shown with the previous Prowess matchup, you can afford to take a couple of turns to set up here. Let's see what Mr. Rab's playing. I think last time I played him, I believe he was on Team of Giants or an Uro or Sultai Uro. But there we go. Marsh Flats, play out the Shadow Spear. Hope he's on rock again. Sultai, okay. So Sultai Fairies, interesting. I'll admit, that's not a deck that's on my radar, but then again, what currently is in Modern. Don't know what's going to be good against this deck, sort of treading unknown territory here as they bottom two. Going to get a Godless Shrine here. I'm just going to keep it simple, push the fairies here, untap, play a red source, Spyro pitching Lingering Souls and Spyro getting 2 1/1s. And a Vault as well, fantastic. Get another land to get closer to Bat Skull, we get to equip Shadow Spear and flashback Lingering Souls next turn. Start to go as wide as possible. Draw it, then draw another land and play a Bat Skull. Hopefully that'll be enough to outvalue whatever fairies it coming down. I mean, a Bitter Blossom would be a bit of a pain, but I have no frame of reference for what this could be. Okay, we've got a Thought Scour hitting, Spell Stutter Sprite, and Snow Covered Island. Okay, like I said, we're going to keep it simple. It's going to load up a Seasoned Pyromancer with a Shadow Spear. Sultai, I'm trying to think. Is this? Oh, I think I know actually. Now we could be playing against a Ninjas deck. The Sultai colours, the snow cover. That's like a Quartal. That would make a lot of sense actually. Yeah, I definitely want to play Lingering Souls in that case. So I would rather not give my opponent something like a Fallen Shinobi activation or anything like that. Particularly if they're drowning the locking a Lingering Souls token, that's probably, sorry, Lingering Souls flashback, that's a good place to be. Spell Stuff Sprite. And still target spell, okay. So hold up bolts. Hopefully hit them for 5 here. If they flash in, I don't know, trying to think what they could have. Ice Fan Quartal, Snapcaster Mage, Spell Stutter Sprite, could be Cryptic Command. Crikey, there's just And this is what's beautiful about Modern right now. No idea what my opponent could be playing. That is just brilliant. So, I'm going to hold up the Seasoned Pyromancer tokens. We've got Bolt in hand. No reason to expose Batterskull, Pyromancer to a Cryptic or potential Drown in the Lock. They do have Ambush Viper. So what they're getting back, probably Thought Scour, which makes sense with the Drown in the Locks. Oh, look at that. That's Fanquattle, called it. Now they are tapped out. Still, best thing to do is not use this. They've shown a lot of counter magic or stack based interruption. And the best thing now, keep off the stack, play the Seasoned Pyromancer tokens, untap, equip one with a Shadow Spear. As long as two damage gets through, we can bolt them. Probably on their upkeep, or if they tap out of Cryptic mana. And we've got a block here. As we're about to see Ice Fanquattle, another Snapcaster for push. Yeah, probably on this token here. Yep, as expected. Okay, going down to 4. I want to dig as deep as physically possible. I've tapped out of that, so I'm going to new plan. I'm going to rebuild with as wide as possible. I'm going to keep the bolt, ditch the Stoneforge Mystic and the Batterskull, and I'm going to bolt them now whilst they are tapped out. And say, can you beat that opponent? Next turn we'll be able to Lingering Souls, be able to Seasoned Pyromancer tokens, be able to, any one of these are lethal with the Shadow Spear equipped. Could just draw draw a Stomp, but I want to make sure, just want to see what they've got. There's no point running into a Cryptic. I don't know if this deck could even play it. Okay, that answers that question. So, when they crack the Tarn, I'll stomp them. Oof. Okay. Game 1 against Sultai Ninja stuff. Okay. So, against some of their black removal, I do like Sword over Embercleave, which seems to be a popular or a common decision that I'm making this league. Not sure whether it's correct. Do like Kai's Guile and Remorseful Cleric. They seem very graveyard based. With that, I'm not a huge fan of Dreadbore. Right, a Guile over a Dreadbore. A couple of Remorseful Clerics over a Thoughtseize. and a Croxer. Helix didn't seem fantastic. Saw a lot of basics from them as well. So 2 islands for the Coatls. None of the new snow-tapped duels, so probably don't want to bring in Magus. Could see it depending on what's in game 2. Yeah, I'll keep it simple and go from there. I do very much like keeping the 7 discard though for situations like this. Just get to sit back on the inevitability of battle school with removal and interaction, removal and discard. So let's hope for no Veil of Summer. God, I hate that card. Okay, so they are ninjas. So we go okay. So take the Bitter Blossom here, then set up to Bolt, the Spell Stutter, Plague Engineer, or Infiltrator, and then Thoughtseize away when we can play around Spell Stutter. Okay, I like that. The other option is just to run the Thoughtseize into Spell Stutter, but I really don't like that against their deck. Seems very tempo orientated. If we can take a 1-for-1, then we should get it. So our opponent has lost connection to the game. I'll come back when he's back. So our opponent's back, cracking the Misty. I'd expect to see. Okay, we've got a Water Grave. Yep. So we've got a Breeding Pool, Snowcroft Island. Expect to see the island holding up Spell Stutter Sprite. Position, probably taking our Thoughtseize so we can stop their Ingenious Infiltrator. Not too bothered about the Plague Engineer, so we can know their hand completely. What I'll do instead now, I'll play out the Stoneforge Mystic off a Sacred Foundry. Tapping correctly this time. Oh, bloody hell. I'm going to have to edit that out. It's god awful. We'll be getting Sword of Feast and Famine this time. The opponent, again, lots of stack-based stuff. I'm assuming they're not going to just play an Ingenious Infiltrator next turn. They play a Plague Engineer, I'll bolt it, and then pop in a Battle Skull. I'm going to be getting a Blood Crypt. I'm taking a lot of damage to do this, if all goes to plan. I do like the opponent's deck. Looks like they are indeed holding up the Spell Stutter Sprite, which is fine by me. We don't have to do anything. Okay. So the opponent's looking to get frisky with the Spell Stutter Sprite. Probably going to try and ninjutsu out the Ingenious Infiltrator. I'm guessing with that, unless they if they play a land, then I'll be wary of Drown in the Lock. If not, then I might end up going for the double bolt. But I think it's better to take the to try and kill the Spell Stutter Sprite now. And use the Drown in the Lock, then get a Blood Crypt, and then to take the 2 for 2. Should have fetched first. I have to get a Godless Shrine now, which is a mistake on my part. But I've got to do it this way. I can't let them take the Sword of Feast and Famine. Not whilst they're going to be getting the Inquisition. I'll take the Pyromancer. Unless they're just looking to force through. Yeah. Well, we got to do everything. So let's swamp, take the Plague Engineer, and hold up the Batterskull. The other option is to no, hold up the Batterskull, and then next turn we'll be able to equip the Sword of Feast and Famine to the Batterskull. Still wary of Assassin's Trophy, Abrupt Decay, any bounce effects that they might have, I'm not sure. Collect Roof would be quite bad if they're running that. Particularly as we made the mistake fetching, so not getting the Blood Crypt, but using that to bolt, and then, yeah. Okay, so opponent's showing their hand, they're not going to attack. Put in a Batterskull. We're going to equip the Sword of Feast and Famine to it. I assume that's going to jump with Snapcaster. I mean, it's the most sensible one, right? So I assume they're... Perfect, so now what we're going to do is wait for them to fetch. Right? Yeah, so now we're going to sacrifice a creature and then exile the graveyard. Just to stop any value that they could be getting from future Snapcasts that they draw now, or a counterspell that they could draw. So no, our hand is Seasoned Pyromancer, which is going to take both Hellbent. We've got a 2-turn clock and protection from their creature. It is a good place to be. We could do a neat little trick with the activation of the, with the triggered ability of the sword on the stack and hold priority. Tap all our lands. Tap and get the Seasoned Pyromancer tokens. Now I've got even more blockers for the Infiltrator if for whatever reason they manage to remove the Germ token. If they do, we'll be able to push it. All in all, I think we've got this game locked up. As I say that, we 3-2 the league. So, horrendous start, going into what was a nice little comeback. So we'll flick on over. Games 1 and 2 pretty rough, but Prowess and Rock Prowess Rock and then Sultai Fairy Ninja things, which looks to be quite a solid deck. I'd be interested in playing that in the future. But Rock and Prowess, two exceptionally difficult matchups that we navigated very, very well with a bit of luck and a bit of, bit of punting in the Rock matchup. Welcome back to the wrap-up. The takeaways from this are Lingering Souls is an outstanding card in Modern again. It completely won us the Prowess matchups, brilliant against Rock. Not sold on Embercleave. I do wonder if this should just be a sort of Fire and Ice or another Lingering Souls, to copy of Lingering Souls. Particularly, we could just do something like this and move Feast and Famine into the main Embercleave out, put in a Sword or another Lingering Souls or something like that. The sideboard I'm not convinced about. I thought the Kaya's Guiles overperformed hugely. Lightning Helix is a solid card anyway. I'm quite happy to keep that. The rest of it didn't really come up too much. It was mainly just the nature of the matchups, where we wanted to really be the control deck, keep sit back on our removal whilst we stabilising or presenting a clock. I like this deck, and I'm not convinced if this is the one that I'll take through Saturday's challenge, but I'd certainly like to revisit it beforehand, maybe run it through another league, so I might end up getting 4 videos this week. But all in all, I'll see you guys for the next one. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you like my content, drop me a message. I'll have my information for Twitter and Twitch in the comments section, in the description. And yeah, if you've got any thoughts on the deck, let me know. Alright guys, see you next time. Bye.